Oh, hi. Yeah, it's time for vocabulary, but I was just reading a cool poem. Do you want to hear it? It's kind of a riddle. It was written by a man named Shel Silverstein, and he wrote a whole bunch of kids' poems. You want to hear this one? It's called Riddle. It says, listen to my song. I'm the strongest of the strong. I can make a giant cry. Who or what am I? Ooh, I'm going to show you the picture here. It's actually a picture of a giant, isn't it? Let me read it again. Listen to my song. I'm the strongest of the strong. I can make a giant cry. Who or what am I? I know. I was just chopping some of these yesterday. Do you know what that would be? What can you chop that would make a giant cry? Did you say an onion? Uh-huh. That's what I was doing. And look, he was holding an onion. Shel Silverstein is a children's poet. He was a children's poet. He's passed away. But he wrote lots of collections of poems. This particular book right here, the front paper cover has come on off of it. But this one is called Everything on It. This one, the cover is called A Light in the Attic. And he's written several other things and lots of poems. There's lots of different poems in each of these books. Maybe you've heard of him before. Maybe you've read some of his things before. But today we are going to read about him. So would you please take your vocabulary workbook, open to page 148, and we're going to read about Shel Silverstein. I need you to follow along like we do in class. When we get to the blue word, I want you to say it out loud. Everybody understand? We're on 148. If you need to use your finger to follow along, that is fine. Shel Silverstein. I'm going to start with the orange section. Have you ever read something written by Shel Silverstein? As you might know, he wrote many stories and poems. Children and adults around the world enjoy his writing. Okay, here we go. Shel Silverstein's writing is so popular that there are many translations of his books. In fact, we can read his books in 30 different languages. You can read a Shel Silverstein book in any part of the world, but the author had a hard time getting his early books printed. One of these books was The Giving Tree. People said it was too sad. It is the story about a tree that loved a boy. This simple summary might sound silly, but the book isn't. Of course, Silverstein did finally get the story made into a book, and millions of people have read it. Many adults love this book as much as children do. Another popular book of Silverstein's is Lafcadio, the Lion Who Shot Back. It is the story of a lion that learns self-defense. The book is divided into chapters, and it includes many of Silverstein's own drawings. In fact, he drew a lot of pictures to go with his writing. Silverstein also liked to write poems. His book, Where the Sidewalk Ends, has many poems. The book, A Light in the Attic, does too. Hey, that's the one we just read right here. We looked at. Let's keep going. Poems are the text of the book. Many of Silverstein's poems are very silly, but his books are fun, not just because of the words. His drawings are in these books too. Most of his drawings do not have captions with them. That's because the pictures often illustrate the verses of the poems. Or maybe the poems tell about the drawings. It could go either way. Some of Silverstein's poems are made up of many stanzas. Other poems have just a few, but most of them will make you smile, and almost all of them will make you think. Silverstein passed away in 1999. Many people were very sad. People all over the world wrote articles about him. They told him goodbye. They said that they would miss him, but we will always have his writing and his drawings, and both children and adults will enjoy his great works for years to come. He wrote a lot of things. All right, let's go back really quickly. We're going to read all the blue words together. Get your finger ready. I want you to point to each word as we say it together. Here we go. Translations, printed, summary, chapters, poems, text, captions, verses, stanzas, articles. All right, let's turn to the next page. Today we're going to practice a context clue strategy. Look at the top of page 149. Put your finger at the top of the page. Follow along with me. Underneath the heading of Practice the Context Clue Strategy, it says, here is one of the bold-faced words from the essay on page 148. Use the context clue strategy you learned in lesson 1 on page 137 to figure out the meaning of this word. What is that word in purple? Translations, yes. So we are going to first do what it says here with reading. Read the sentence that uses the word translations. Read some of the sentences around it. Look back in your story, find the word translations in blue. Okay, look on 148. Well, that's at the very beginning, isn't it? We're going to read the sentences that are around it. I want you to do that on your own right now. Read the sentences that are around it. All right, I just read the first two sentences. That tells me a lot. Let's read it together. Shel Silverstein's writing is so popular that there are many translations of his books. In fact, we can read his books in 30 different languages. That's a lot. I bet translations might have something to do with languages. Let's look back at page 149 at the look section. Look for context clues to the word's meaning. Can you find any clues that tell how something is done? How were these translations done? Do you remember what it said? What words have something to do with how it is done? 30 different languages, yes. So what I'd like you to do is for the second part, under look, write 30 different languages. These translations, how were they done? In 30 different languages. Please be careful of spelling. These translations were done in 30 different languages. Let's move on to the think. Think about the context clues. What other helpful information do you know? Well, what do we know about the word translations? Translate. Do you know someone who doesn't speak English very well? Or have you seen a show on TV that maybe someone doesn't speak English, and so someone else has to help them to understand? Do you know what that's called? Do they translate for them? So for the think section, I want you to write something you know about it, which could be people translate the languages for those who don't understand. People translate languages for other people. Something like that. I want you to write down something you know. Maybe you know something else about translating. Maybe you saw on TV someone making an announcement, and next to them was someone who was speaking in sign language. We would say that they are translating for those who cannot hear well. Write something down about translating that you know. When you're done, I want you to predict what translations are, or a translation. And then after you've written down your prediction, I want you to look it up in the back of your book on the check part and write out the definition. You can go ahead and finish this up, and I will see you later.